what changes? Everything. Times change. Technology changes. People change. Sometimes it seems overnight. You can resist it. You can adapt to it. But you can't ignore it. Our thinking is to lead it by changing the way we work, changing the way expectations are met, leading clients and the practice of law forward. You know what that changes? Everything.
Hi, and welcome to Atlantic Business Magazine's Take 5 with the Top 50. This is a video interview series where we're going to be asking each of our top 50 CEOs just 5 questions in an effort to find out what makes them tick. I'm Dawn Chafe, Executive Editor and co-owner of Atlantic Business Magazine, and I'm joined here today by Monsieur Gaetan Thomas. At the time of his Top 50 CEO Hall of Fame induction, he was president and CEO of NB Power, but just a few short months later, instead of retiring, he had signed on as CEO of Conseil Économique de Nouveau-Brunswick. Thank you so much for joining me, Gaetan. Let's just jump in and get started.
What I'm most proud of at NB Power is the fact that we were able to change the culture. And that is not easy to do. And the proof is in the pudding when we actually were able to reach world-class performance at Point de Pro. And that required a change of behaviors, a change of culture, creating a collaborative environment where everybody embraced the excellence culture to run a world-class performance at a nuclear plant, which we achieved before I retired. So I was really, really pleased with that. And the other big part is that New Brunswick became a leader in smart grid integration with the partnership with Siemens, an international company that chose Fredericton to become the center of competency for smart grid in the world. And that happened in small New Brunswick at NB Power. And for me, these are things that nobody can take away from us. It was a time after 10 years in the same role. What happens is that you have reached a certain, impact. But once you've done all the goals you've achieved with the company, like world-class performer in nuclear, smart grid integration, to just be in charge of the day-to-day operating was not as challenging for me at the end. And when you have that feeling, it's time for you to move on. And now that I've taken this other job, I didn't think I could find any more challenging job. Well, I was wrong, because now I'm talking about really propelling the New Brunswick economy with 800 members who are really, really in a tough situation with the COVID-19. And every day I come out, I wake up excited because I know I can help do what we did with nuclear and smart grid for the businesses in New Brunswick, including the new wave of small modular reactors. I was talking to Tractable, a big company, international, that wants to come in the Atlantic Canada. So these are the kinds of things that really keeps me going. My grandmother, when I grew up, I visited her every day, and she gave me so much optimism about life and how great I could become and the things I could do, and she showed so much confidence in me and basically say, look, Gaetan, when you give, you receive, and you sow what you get what you plant, and I wanted to do more, and I wanted to, and in leadership, really, it's engaging people. And my grandmother was so welcoming, so warm, and I was able to actually take some of her temperament in building solid connection. My mother was a born leader. She was in a time where she taught me how to actually do the dishes. You got to clean up your room. I had to do as much as my sisters. I had 3 sisters, and she would say, like, you have to share the workload. Always, you come from a small place, And, it doesn't mean you cannot do great things. She was limited because she couldn't go to college because her father and mother died, and she was caught with 7 kids. And she wanted to make sure that I had the education and the principles of life. And she was an extremely good philosopher. So a lot of my leadership skills I got from my mother and my grandmother, and I got a lot of humility from my father, who was the most humble man, but a very, very smart man. So they've shaped my future, and every day I think of them, that I would have never achieved what I've done without them. As we know, all the talks about getting to clean energy, to net zero by 2050, has really created the climate to achieve the Atlantic Loop, so that we are all interconnected and we can maximize or optimize our resources. And with Biden now leading the United States, who is committed to getting back to the Paris Agreement, we have an opportunity in Atlantic Canada to actually make these projects go. And in order to achieve net zero, and assuming that the US will go on our side, New Brunswick being so strategically located, the geography is on our is an advantage for New Brunswick, but the benefits will be for all Atlantic. Newfoundland has untapped hydro resources, Quebec, and we have the advent of small modular reactors, Gen 4 reactors, that New Brunswick is leading in the country. And like I say, we're getting some calls. I'm getting some calls. I'm no longer the CEO of NB Power. I'm still getting some calls to connect them to NB Power to make these projects happen. And I'm working for a law firm right now that specialize in energy projects across Canada and the US. And they saw that my background would be very, very useful to become part of their strategic advisory group. So in a way, New Brunswick, I believe, has never been as well positioned. And when that project goes, all Atlantic Canada will benefit. I think we can understand why Biden would not necessarily support oil pipeline now, simply because United States has a lot of shale gas. And I know it's going to get tricky, but I think it can become an advantage for Canada if we decide to reconcile with First Nations. We have to do this right. We have to reconcile with First Nations, and we need to reopen the path to either to the mountain, the Western pipeline or the West-East pipeline, because I think that's the real path for oil in the future. And in order for that to succeed, we have to figure out a way to produce clean energy for Albertans. And that's why they've shown interest lately in small modular reactors to become the future to clean up the oil industry. Whether you're a gas industry or oil industries, when we talk net zero by 2050, it affects all of us. And I do believe that the future is in the electricity vehicles and hydrogen vehicles. So the gas will be a transition. The oil can be produced cleanly to meet the world's needs, but we're going to have to figure out a way, a Canadian solution, because we cannot depend on the US to really take our oil like we used to in the past.